Thank you for joining me. My name is Beth, and as Legacy Director, it's my job to make sure our clients are provided with all of the tools, resources, and strategies for making sure they have everything they need to build, create, and protect their legacies. With that being said, your provider should have already given you a copy of what we like to call the Legacy Portfolio. You're welcome to follow along with me on screen as I share my screen, or you can open up your digital or your print version of the Legacy Portfolio. With that being said, let's jump in. What you're looking at is the front cover page of our Legacy Planning Portfolio. And before we dive into all of the topics for the day, we want to talk a little bit about why legacy planning is so important. We believe that the legacy planning idea can be captured in the form of a pyramid. There are actually three building blocks to this pyramid. The first piece, the first block, is the financial block. To have a solid legacy, you first must make sure you have a great financial advisor and a great plan in place to make sure that all of your finances are captured. Next, we have the legal and tax block. Once you have your financial piece in place, you've got to make sure you've got the legal and tax block in place in the form of an estate plan, whatever that looks like for you, to make sure that your finances and your future are protected. And then finally, the most fun piece of the pyramid, what we like to call the legacy piece. This legacy building block is what we're going to be really focusing on today. But I always want to make sure that our clients understand that before we can really tackle the legacy piece, you must first have the financial and the legal blocks in place as well. Let's dive in. So as you open up your legacy portfolio, you'll find a table of contents, and these are the topics we're going to very briefly discuss today. We won't do a deep dive into any of these topics, but know as we go through that at the end of each chapter, there are plenty of extra resources, tools, TED Talks, different websites, lots of different books and things that you can do deeper research into if you have any more questions or need more information. And you can also talk to the person who sent you this video. They can get you connected with me and with other tools and resources as well. The very first thing we love to cover in the legacy portfolio as we're getting started talking about our legacies is to turn to page 7 and talk about the values list. The values list is something we have our clients take just a couple of minutes and look through and pick a few values that they think describe their family or that they might want to describe their family. So take a few minutes. You can pause this video if you'd like to and go through and circle anywhere between 5 and 10 of these values that you either think really describe the values of your family or that you would like to focus on making a core value of your family. Now that you've selected some of the values, I want you to go through and fill out the subsequent pages. You don't have to do all 10, but really think through those values. Sometimes the stories and the history about why those values are as important as the values themselves. So take a few moments and fill out what those values are and answer the questions about each of those values. For our next topic, we really like to talk to our clients about defining their family brand. There are lots of different strategies for doing this. So one strategy that we like to have our clients do is for our clients to create a family mission statement. There are some great resources and examples of that located in the legacy portfolio. So take a few minutes and look at what a family mission statement is. A family mission statement does a great job of really laying out the vision and the values and the beliefs of that family. This can be important for older generation family members to do to help really provide direction and clarity for younger generation family members. In the same vein, we also love to have our clients create a family motto. So family mottos are very similar to a mission statement, but they're a lot more concise, a lot shorter, a lot more directional sometimes, and we have some great resources on that and some great examples of those as well. Another tool that we really love to introduce our clients to and encourage them to do is the idea of writing a legacy letter. A legacy letter is a legacy letter for older generation family members to write down their wisdom and their ethics and their beliefs and their hopes and dreams for their future generation family members and really capture their sentiment and their love for their family. So this can be a letter that you write to one individual person, or maybe you write one for each child or each grandchild. This can also be something that you write to a whole generation. So it could be one letter that you write capturing your history and your wisdom and your values that you write to maybe all of your grandchildren. There's not a right or wrong way to do a legacy letter, and there are tons of examples inside your legacy portfolio and even more if you Google it online. We also encourage all of our clients, if you're going to have a trustee, to write a trustee letters. These trustees are people that are going to be directing your family and your legacy. And so being able to write a trustee letter is a great way to be able to provide that person with clear direction on your wishes and how you want your finances and everything you leave behind to be used. So we really highly encourage our clients to write trustee letters. There are some great examples of trustee letters in your legacy portfolio as well. And then finally, when it comes to defining your family brand, we also really encourage our clients to create ethical wills. Ethical wills are similar to a legacy letter, but they're a little bit different. In a typical will, you leave behind your belongings and say who you want those to go to. With an ethical will, you leave behind your history and wisdom and stories and values and work ethic, and you really use that to provide a clear framework and clear direction for younger generation family members, your expectations for them, your hopes for them, your wishes for them, and the things that you want to be able to say to them after you're gone. There are some great examples of ethical wills in your legacy portfolio as well. As I mentioned earlier, at the end of every single chapter of all of these topics we're discussing today, you will find a list of resources. These resources include page after page of books, movies, TED Talks, podcasts, links and websites. So as we're going through, take some time, and if there is something that you would like to know more about, as I said, you can contact your provider who sent you this video, or you're welcome to look through the resources we provided for you at the end of the chapter. Our next topic that we love to discuss is preserving family histories, stories, and legends. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about with our clients. So you can read some of the great quotes that we have. We have lots scattered throughout this chapter. But preserving the family history, stories, and legends is something so important because once you are gone, if you have not been intentional about capturing those history, stories, and legends, then those things are lost. And so all throughout this chapter, we provide you with a lot of different places within the portfolio itself and then other resources as well, where you can go in and make sure you've really thought through your family history and stories and have those things captured for younger generation family members. That way, one day when you're gone, all of those are saved. Make sure you take a few minutes and go through there. I also want to point out that in this chapter, we have a really cool thing we love our clients to take a few minutes and do called the Do You Know scale. So what's interesting about this is some of our clients would tell you they actually know a ton about their family history. And then when you start walking them through the Do You Know scale, they actually realize how little they know. One important realization from this is that a lot of times, especially for our older generation clients, some of these questions they can't answer because the people who had these answers are gone. And so we like to have our clients do the Do You Know skill so that they can realize how important it is to capture this history while they're still here and able to do that. So take a few minutes, maybe you can do it with your spouse, do it with your kids. Look through these, talk through these, and see how much of your family history you actually know. Then take another few minutes, go through the rest of the chapter, and fill out some of the questions. For our people with military history, if you were in the military, if your spouse was in the military, maybe it was a parent of yours that served, we want you to take a few minutes and go through, starting on page 38, My Military Story. This asks a lot of really unique questions that a lot of our veterans often have not talked about. It's answers and stories and history that, just like everything else with our family histories and stories, if we're not intentional about asking these questions and capturing this information now, when that veteran is gone, history and those stories are lost. So Some of these questions are actually very unique, things the veteran may not have thought to talk about with younger generation family members, life lessons that were learned, values that were developed, important things that happened that really changed the trajectory of their family. So if you are a veteran or if your spouse is a veteran, make sure you take a few minutes starting on page 38 and go through military history questions. Our next topic is using heirlooms and artifacts as value transmitters. And here's why that's important. So, one very unique thing that we have seen after years and years in this business is that it is not the high value heirlooms and artifacts that really cause fights. It's not the $1 million, it's not the family land, it's not the $500,000 in the checking account that tends to cause the most fights. What tends to cause the most fights when an older generation family member passes is the small things that have sentimental value and often no monetary value. Maybe it's great grandmother's wedding ring. Maybe it is a set of quilts or teacups. It can be anything. Maybe it's great grandma's cookbook that she had written in her own hand. If you're not intentional about really capturing these things and making sure you're clear about who you want these things to pass to, that can be something that can cause a lot of family chaos and struggle once you're gone. So we like to have our clients walk through some of their heirlooms and artifacts and really think through these sentimental property things. Have those conversations with your family members while you're still around. If you're giving your wedding ring to your oldest daughter, have that conversation with her and with your other kids as well and explain why that is. We also encourage you to make sure that with these heirlooms, whatever they may be, that you not only say who you want them to go to, but take a few minutes to write down the history behind them. If it is great grandma's quilt, then if as much history as you know about that, capture that and make sure your family knows where that information is. There is a place inside your legacy portfolio that you can actually go through and capture a lot of that information, but realize that once you're gone, heirlooms and artifacts that are important to you and your family can actually lose their value if you're not intentional about making sure you've captured that history. Younger generation family members may not realize why that artifact is important. So take a few minutes, go through this chapter, and fill out all of those things. The next chapter that we have is identifying, elevating, and nurturing family rituals and traditions. This is another really fun chapter. So be sure you take a few minutes here to go through this. Maybe your family has some really unique traditions. Maybe it is revolving around a certain birthday or a certain holiday. Maybe it's a certain dish that you cook on a holiday every year. There's a lot of great places in this chapter to go through and capture all of those things. Why do you make macaroni and cheese with extra cheese every Thanksgiving? Why is it that you always meet at Nana's house at Christmas? Those stories and those history are there, and this chapter, as you work through it, will make sure that you really capture the history and the reasons behind those traditions. If you're a family that you feel doesn't have a ton of traditions, or if you'd like to make some very meaningful traditions, this is also the right chapter for you. Starting on page 65, we have a page after page of ideas for creating new, very meaningful family traditions. So it can be a lot of different things. Just realize that if you are interested in creating new things, start on page 65 and look at some of those ideas. And as always, there are more great resources at the end of the chapter for you as well. We also love the next chapter, sharing travel experiences. So realize that if you are a person who has traveled some or maybe traveled a lot, travel really changes your perspective on the world. So we encourage our clients to talk through some of those memories and some of the things that they've learned about the world, maybe people that they've met that they've changed them. Go through this chapter, fill out some of that information, and also realize that if travel is something that's important to you, you can talk to your estate planning attorney and actually build in a travel fund within your estate plan to be sure that that is something, if it's important to you, you can pass on a legacy of travel to your younger generation family members. So go through here, take just a few minutes, talk about your incredible travel experiences, and capture all of that information. Okay, I know it's not everybody's favorite topic, talking about your own funeral. And yet, this chapter is one of the most fun things we do. Here's why. It is so easy and takes so little effort on the front end to really be intentional about making your funeral a teaching moment. This is one of the few times in your life, maybe, when you will have a captive audience and you won't be there. If you go through and fill out this chapter and take a few moments to really think and plan, you can actually make your funeral a teaching moment that in your last moments when they are discussing you, it can be such a powerful, incredible way to transmit your life lessons and your values. So go through and fill out this information. We also encourage our clients to do this because if you've not already planned your funeral, that's something that when you pass, it can leave a lot of chaos for your family at a time when they're already grieving. That's not what we like to see. So take a few moments and go through within the legacy portfolio and actually fill out this information. And then make sure whoever it is that's going to be planning your funeral, make sure that person knows where this is. We encourage our clients to do this. Don't leave your family wondering what you would have wanted. In this chapter, there's actually a place to go and capture all of that information. If you've already planned your funeral and you have that done, there's a place to capture that as well. So your family knows who to talk to if you've prepaid your funeral or pre-planned it. All of that information is something that those people are going to need. So make sure you take a few minutes and fill this out. Is there someone specific you want to do your eulogy? Are there certain things about you or things that have happened that you would like that person to talk about, or maybe certain things you don't want that person to talk about? All of those are conversations that need to be had now. So fill out this information and then have those conversations with the appropriate person. We also like to point out that if you've not even started this process and you don't even know where to start and feel very overwhelmed, that's okay. We understand that. So, starting in this chapter, there is a page all about what to do before you die. This is such an extensive list. So, this list will talk you through what it means to pre plan your wishes or pre plan your own funeral or memorial service. Again, not everybody's favorite topic, but taking a few minutes on the front end can really save your family so much trouble on the back end. So go through and look at this. There's also a great list following this one about what to do when you pass. And it has a list of everything that your family is going to need to know, the people they need to contact, the things they need to do. So take a few minutes, check out all of the resources in this chapter. Our next section is enhancing family communication, another one of my favorite topics. So, enhancing family communication is something that I'm very passionate about because this is one of the best ways to really create and pass along your legacy. There are so many different ways that you can enhance family communication, and so let's talk about those. But as you get to this chapter and you're going through, we want you to really take time to fill this out and answer some of these questions about family communication. There's a lot of ideas on how to enhance your family communication if you're not a family that you feel is very good at that. So, different conversation starters. We love our families to do a family meeting. Whether maybe it's an immediate family that does a family meeting every week, like we do in our family, or maybe you've got families spread out all over the United States or all over the world. Maybe it's a great time to come together, either in person or on Zoom, create a family meeting topic, an agenda for once a year, and come together and really talk about the things that are important. You can see kind of our family meeting agenda topics. We have so many different family meeting agendas. And so if this is something you're interested in, let us know. We would be happy to get you set up with a family meeting agenda that works well for your family. There are also a lot of really fun communication games and tools that exist out there. We have so many great resources on this. You can see on this page, Choices in a Jar, the Ungame. There are so many different ways that are very simple and very practical, that are ways that you can really enhance family communication. And like I said, use that as a way to pass on your legacy. Our next chapter is Discovering the Power of Generosity. So, in this section, you're going to learn resources about developing, maintaining, and recording your family's generosity plans and goals. This is another thing we really encourage our clients to do. A lot of times, our older generation client members that come in, or older generation family members that come in, There may be a certain church or charity or organization that they're very passionate about that they donate to regularly, whether it's financially or with their time or other resources. And younger generation family members don't even realize that that's happening. And so we like to really make sure that our clients have done a good job capturing the things that are important to them, making sure those things, if they would like that giving to continue when they're gone, making sure those things are built into their estate plan and that their heirs know what those plans are. And also for families that don't feel that they have a generosity strategy, we have a lot of really neat, very easy tools and tips inside this chapter where you can start very simply with baby steps creating and fostering that sense of generosity within your own family. So, if you don't feel like you are a family that really has that sense of generosity, open up this chapter, go through some of the exercises, and really get started because there are a lot of really easy things you can do today. Being generous doesn't take tons and tons of money. You don't have to be Bruce Wayne to start a family charity or a donor advised fund. You can start some of these things with as little as a couple of $1,000s, and it can be a really impactful way to bring your family together and really foster a sense of generosity. There's also some great topics on here, especially if you have younger kids, different ways that you can teach generosity and kindness even to young children in your family. Our last chapter is books, movies, and other media. And this chapter often surprises some of our clients. But what we've seen is that books, movies, and other media like TED Talks and different things, podcasts even, those are all great ways to transmit your values and your beliefs. So maybe there are some books that have really impacted you and the way that you view and interact with the world. Maybe it was a movie, or maybe it's things that captured the way that you feel about a certain topic or a certain person or a certain place. Being able to share those things with your younger generation family members and then communicate why that's important to you is a very easy and yet very powerful way to connect with those younger generation family members. If you don't have a lot of books or movies or other media ideas that you feel are powerful, in this chapter, we have tons and tons of different page after page of books and movies and all sorts of other media that really have a powerful sense of value and ethic tied to it. And so read some of these if you don't feel like you have any of your own. Take a few minutes, read some of these books, watch some of these movies, listen to some of these TED Talks, visit some of these websites, check them out, and anything that really clicks with you, be sure you take a few minutes to share with your younger generation family members. Finally, we want to take a few minutes at the very end of our time together to really take a breath and think about what we want things to look like moving forward. This is your life and your legacy. And so we want to make sure you think through um, protecting yourself and projecting yourself and protecting your legacy moving into the future. So I want you to really take a few minutes as we close out to think about the impact you hope to have on your family and your community and on the world. As always, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those. Please let us know. We hope you enjoy the Legacy Portfolio. Take a few minutes and really dig into some of these chapters that interest you, and we'll see you soon.